With me today, I have Jack over in Houston. We have Hunter out in Atlanta. And in the studio with me today, we have Tamara and Joey. And currently on our Zoomcast, Joey is invisible, so it's just Tamara. That being said, 2016 had a few, actually, I can't even say it had a few great movies. It had good movies. There were some out there. But today we're talking about Arrival. Arrival opened up on November 11th in the United States, 2016. So we'll start off right now, just to say, sci-fi category, it's a hit and miss with a lot of people. I have a lot to say at the end of this about how I felt and thought about it. But overall, looking at Rotten Tomatoes, this movie had, for a while, close to 100 for a long time with the audience members. It's dropped a little bit. I think we're at 83 on Rotten Tomatoes right now, which isn't terrible. But let's start off with the main actress in this movie, Amy Adams. Joey, where was Amy Adams in 2016 before she made this movie?
Well, she was in a lot of movies, at least or two others, where she did actually split her time between Arrival and Nocturnal Animals.
In 2016?
In 2016. Before that, she also did Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, that great film. She, basically got her start. First actual credited role was in 1999's Drop Dead Gorgeous, starring that lady. What's her name? You know the name.
Leslie Miller?
No.
That's who she's.
No, it's not.
Is it Sandra Bullock?
No, I know the name. I can't remember. Mary Jane Watson, you know her.
Oh, Kristen Dunst.
Kristen Dunst. And yeah, Denise Richards was in that. Then she moved on. She had and
don't forget Allison Janney, who
she was in that. There's a lot of names in there. She did some TV. Did shows like Smallville. Did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that 70s show. She did The West Wing, Office. She did Charmed. But her first major starring role was in Talladega Nights in 2016, opposite of Will Ferrell. It's a personal favorite of mine. Then she
let's just talk about that.
Okay.
When it comes to diversity in acting, a Will Ferrell movie, would you guys agree to be in a Will Ferrell movie as was she his wife in that movie?
No, she was the girlfriend. She was the girlfriend, like the PR lady.
Oh, right,
who turned into his girlfriend.
Right, yes. And to actually have and if I remember, she was pretty serious throughout that film.
Yes, she was very serious.
There was not a lot of joking for her, but it's just I love actresses and actors that could do that, where you have this ability to keep yourself straight while the rest of the cast is just being outrageous. Mel Brooks has many fine actors in that.
Right.
And she was also in before this, I think, and you can correct me, she was in Cruel Intentions too.
She was indeed. Which is funny because she was in Buffy, and then the next year, or like later that year, it was in Cruel Intentions 2.
And if anyone doesn't know about Cruel Intentions 2, I do not seek it out. It is a pilot movie for a TV show based on Cruel Intentions,
right.
That was not picked up, and so they added nude scenes in it, not with Amy Adams, and then they put it straight to video. So then they call it Cruel Intentions 2. It's supposed to be a prequel to Cruel Intentions, and it's really bad.
Oh
What I'm saying is that Amy Adams paid her dues to be a movie star. She really did really bad stuff.
Well, and they totally missed an opportunity to call it Cruelest Intentions. Like, how in the world do you miss to actually have at least a good title for your film? That just shows the incompetence.
Then she also came in at Nights of the Museum. She played Amelia Earhart, of course. That was Battle of the Smithsonian for full title people. Then she was in The Fighter, which is her first starring role with Christian Bale. And then apparently there's going to be a Fighter 2, which is in development.
No.
Which
the
means
cast has
nothing.
not been. No, the cast
That
has not
means
been
nothing
set.
then.
Well, yeah.
Well, wait. I think you skipped over a movie that I personally liked, and if you haven't seen,
Enchanted.
no,
Oh.
Pumpkin.
Which, yes.
Pumpkin with Christina Ricci. Am I saying that right? Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She Christina Ricci has always been my favorite like actress growing as a kid. I had a crush on her. In Casper, I think was the first time, and so I watched a lot of her films growing up, and I think I was like 12 when Pumpkin came out, and I don't know why I like the film so much. And it's a nonsensical film. It's really hard to even explain, but I would recommend if you haven't seen that and you're just cleaning the house or just having a day with nothing, you should watch that.
Oh, she was also in The Muppets. We have the poster behind us.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was in Doubt with Philip Seymour Hoffman and
The late great.
the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was great, as well as Meryl Streep.
That was true, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Meryl Streep. Then she came in and did Trouble with the Curve, which was a big one with Clint Eastwood, played his daughter. And it's funny because when she went into Smallville, later on in 2013, she played the Man of Steel's love interest, Lois Lane.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen all of these movies. I've seen some of them, but has she, other than Enchanted and this movie, has she been the leading actress in any of the other ones that you've mentioned?
Most of the time, yeah. Starting like after 2006.
Pretty much after The Fighter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much after
Well,
that.
well, let's
she
talk
was-
about her IMDb, right? So we look at On the Road, which a very forgettable movie, but she wasn't a big person in that. Well, I guess she was a big person, but she wasn't a headliner there. Trouble with the Curb. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're going to have Clint Eastwood as the top of the bill, but she's the part of the movie that puts everything together. She should be the top of the bill.
She's the leading actress. basically.
Right. Man of Steel, obviously, she's not going to be the top there. There was a movie that, so some of the movies that you just skipped over, one of them is becoming more of a cult kind of liking films called Her. It has Joaquin
right.
Phoenix.
Scarlett Johansson.
She is, I'm looking at the IMDb there, and she is way on the bottom of that list, but I do remember her in that. And then American Hustle, which I think
Right.
gets overshadowed.
Well,
And-
she did win. She did win some awards in American Hustle.
Right.
The Golden Globe and Critics' Choice. No, that's not right. The SAG Award, excuse me,
Right.
SAG Award.
And also in that movie, I think is a big deal. Is
Christian Bale
And
and
Jeremy-
Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah,
and
This-
Jeremy Renner.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say that, I think that American Hustle was a perfect example of the kind of actress that Amy Adams is in the sense that was during the ascension period of Jennifer Lawrence when she was everywhere and cast in
Right.
roles and frankly cast in roles that she was too young for.
Yeah.
Roles that were written for someone in their 30s and 40s and she's cast there.
American Hustle is definitely one of those. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so Amy Adams is perfectly cast for that, but she's overshadowed because of the rise of Jennifer Lawrence. But now Jennifer Lawrence has kind of receded,
Right.
and now she's just another starlet in a sense. I hate to say that, but
Yeah.
ever since that bad Russian movie, Russian spy movie,
Yeah.
but Amy Adams has not, and I think that's a testament to her ability to pick roles.
Yeah.
that are good for her.
She was also in Vice, which is she played the wife of Dick Cheney.
Let's not
Christian
talk
Bale
about
was
that.
in that as well.
That's a terrible movie.
That's just.
I
that's
believe
what-
I believe that's referred to as I've heard people say it's the worst movie ever to be nominated for best picture. Vice.
I will say that a funny thing about Vice, and if you've seen it, this is a spoiler, but it's not too big of a spoiler. There's a moment where the credits start rolling after a scene, and as the credits roll, you can tell it's only been 35 minutes into the movie. So, people actually walked out of the theater and came and complained and said, We thought this was a full-length movie, and we had explained to them that it's a comical spoof. Go back in there. The movie's not over. They were just trying to make a joke about, oh, that's it, guys. Let's move on. And obviously that
Wow.
wasn't the case. But yeah, so
Yeah, it's a comedy about Dick Cheney. That's
Right.
what everybody wants to watch.
and then
And then coming
Big
up,
Eyes.
she got Big Eyes. She had she's played some historical figures in her day. Big Eyes. She was the main actress in that. And then upcoming, I think comes out this is going to date us, but it comes out tomorrow. Hillbilly Elegy, which is coming out this year.
Well, yeah, it's
in
coming
2020.
out, and it's going to go to theaters for 2 weeks to get the Oscars,
And
then it's going
Thanksgiving.
to open up for
Netflix.
Yeah, for Thanksgiving.
So we're going to talk about that, right?
yes,
We're gonna-
yes, we will.
Because
We'll
that's
get to
not-
that.
On a
Yeah.
later episode.
Yes, we'll talk about that later as we do a review for Hillbilly Elegy, which I can tell you the reviews coming in. I don't.
Or some, they're bad. They're bad, Joe.
I have not read them. I don't want to read them. I
They're
want to watch the
bad,
movie. I hear that. I know that's what the.
Oh, but they're advertising heavily now.
I want it to be
Yeah.
bad so bad because I really want. I don't know. I know some of you, maybe everyone disagrees with me. I really want Netflix to fall on its face in terms of what they're trying to do to the movie industry.
Well, I'm not going to say either way on that, and I know people are opinionated with that, but what I will say is that Netflix is, at least right now, and I'll say, and I'm here with the industry, right? So in the industry, there are movies that just go straight to streaming, right? SpongeBob SquarePants, the sequel, is going to go straight to streaming. It's not going to hit theaters. Scoob went straight to streaming. And these movies, obviously, we had a chance. Some movie theaters in the nation were open during that time and could have played those movies. Mulan, for instance. So we think Netflix are giving us that chance. Now, I know why they're doing it, and everybody knows why they're doing it. They're doing it, frankly, because they just want to get an Oscar nod. But you know what? Giving us those 2 weeks gives us that ability to have a step up. I could say in our theaters nationally, we have 11 theaters in 8 states. Currently, we have between 6 and 7 open over the last 2 weeks. And it's stayed in the middle of the pack. People are paying to go see this movie a little early to have an experience at the movie theater. Netflix, as much as people see that and goes, oh, well, they're just trying to get it out there and then pulling it to their format. I don't know this for sure. We'll know actually later within the next 24 hours of the time this is being recorded, but Netflix might keep it in theaters as it plays on their streaming service, which I could almost guarantee you it will. Why not make the money? But at the same time, I'm not going to say Netflix is doing anything that the other studios shouldn't be doing at this time. And if they continue to do it later on when COVID is in the past, well, I might say that they should give a bigger window. But right now, as far as the industry goes,
If I just say, if this keeps up, I think the Academy and all the awards have to rethink their whole nominating process.
sure.
The idea that if a movie really doesn't have to be in theaters at all, except for a brief window, what's the point?
There was an article that I read back in 2018 about the Golden Globes turning into the streaming awards. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't think it's a real thing, but I do see that there's going to be a change. There's going to be a change in the industry, but I don't think theaters are going to disappear. I don't think they're going out of business right now because
I'm just saying in the rules of what is nominated.
Right. Well, that being said, we will,
Because there are a lot of films being held back for next year.
sure. Yeah.
And so the films that are this year's best are not really going to be this year's best.
Okay. Well, yeah, I agree. Well, moving on with Amy Adams, I think first of all, this year it's hard because you look at the top grossing films and you have Bad Boys 3, but you do have a few other movies that could make their way, including Wonder Woman, which we'll get to. If not later this episode, in a later episode. But so, yes, we will be talking about Hillbilly Elegy. This is why we're on the case of Amy Adams. We figured we'll put these two together. These are two extremely different films, and we're going to make our comparison later when we review Hillbilly. But moving on with that, she then goes on to Big Eyes, which if I'm not mistaken, and Joey, I don't know if you know, but Big Eyes, that was nominated for some things, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah. So Big Eyes was one of her bigger roles. I think she was. I did not see that movie. It was one of those
It's a
years.
Burton
Where,
movie.
yeah, it was one
I
of-
saw it. It was pretty good. I enjoyed
she
it.
is top billed on that movie behind Christopher Waltz, which I thought
Right.
wouldn't be the case.
Oh, she actually did win
Because
the Golden Globe for that movie.
She's the star. The movie is a biopic, and it's about her character. So it wouldn't be Christopher
right.
Waltz.
Oh, okay. I don't know much about the movie. I was interested in it.
Yeah,
and
it
then
is it's a biopic of a painter.
Yeah,
So-
Margaret Keane, who does the Keane paintings, and her husband takes over. and
Her husband takes credit.
yeah,
credit
for her
for her role.
paintings. Yeah,
And then she divorces him, and she wants the credit for her paintings. And they go to the court, and in one of the scenes, basically at the end, which is truly happened, the judge says because the husband said, "I really painted them," and the judge says,
Right.
"Both of you paint. You have an hour to paint." And the husband couldn't do it, and she did it easily. And it's her paintings, her name. So Tim Burton wanted to make a biopic of this woman. And I've seen it. I think it's on Tubi for free. So it's a really good movie.
Yeah, that's a movie I would revisit. I was living in a rural-ish area during the time it came out, and it did not open up wide enough for the theater that I was working at to get it. But I am currently adding it to my list of movies
and
to
she
watch.
did win the Golden Globe for Best Actress.
Right now, it's available on Pluto with ads. Otherwise, you could buy it on multiple
Amazon.
streaming apps. So, Jack, I know you did some research into Jeremy. Let me just
Jeremy
make sure.
Renner.
Renner. Okay.
Renner. It's easy.
Renner. I know. I have hard times with last names. So,
Um,
well, actually, before we get off Amy Adams, I do want to mention this is for people that are interested in this. She is making a Disenchanted film that I had known nothing about, but I'm going to do some research. It doesn't really have much on it, which I don't know if it's a completely different movie and it just happens to have Enchanted in it. But no, it's made by Walt Disney, so I would assume
It's a sequel.
it's a sequel. I did not actually know about this, and I don't know why. And she also is in the production, or has already made, actually, in 2018, she made Sharp Objects, which is a book that I read or listened to on audiobook while I was driving. I do a lot of road trips. I'm very curious to know how that is, because the book was intense. It was one of those books that I listened to, and there was times where I just had to turn it off, and I was getting frustrated with it. But it was a good frustration, and I did finish it. I have to admit that it was a predictable book, but I listened to the very end too. That being said, she did that as well, and it's a mini series that I'm going to definitely look into. And she has Justice League coming up, right? And
Yeah, Justice League in 2017.
well, she has part 2 coming up.
No, it's
miniseries.
Snyder Cut.
It's the
Right,
Snyder
yes.
Cut.
Oh, I see.
Ah,
Sorry, I'm looking at IMDb. Just want to see. So, all right. Well, let's go to Jeremy Renner.
Renner.
Why can't
Come
I
on,
say this?
it's just
Renner.
the way it says. It's just the
Yeah.
way it sounds.
No,
Jeremy
it's
Renner.
Rockefeller.
So Jeremy Renner,
He wishes.
remember, I think he's like 49 years old now, which is amazing because his career started. His career started like in 1995 with National Lampoon's Senior Trip.
I can't believe they were
Oh
making
my
those
God.
movies at that point like that.
I watched
And-
that.
And the funny thing is, if you go to Wikipedia and you look up National Lampoon's Senior Trip, the only thing they really have to say about it is this is the first film that Jeremy Renner said. That's how important that film is. I think you could just say anything with National Lampoon in front of it, except Animal House or Vacation. Yeah, that's not a good sign for your career.
He's in a movie with Christopher Lloyd called Deadly Games.
Yeah. So his career at the very beginning, basically supporting roles throughout. He's a supporting actor, a supporting character. He had one big role in 2005 I think it was a TV film. For he played the lead role in Dahmer. He played in a biopic of Jeffrey Dahmer. He was Jeffrey Dahmer. I can see that. I haven't seen it, but
He
I
was
can
in
see
SWAT.
it.
I
Yeah,
know.
and
He
so
looks like he eats people.
he's in movies like SWAT and where he's basically a backup character. He's not going to be like he's not going to be one like SWAT like LL Cool J is going to be on top of the billing. It's not going to be Jeremy Renner. But then in 2009 his career totally changes. So in a span of let's say 14 years, and it becomes The Hurt Locker, which is Best Picture winner, film about the Iraq War. He's nominated for Best Actor. And from then on, basically, he's an A-list actor. Even though, and he was also nominated the very next year for The Town as a supporting actor. Ben Affleck's The Town, that movie. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. So he has 2 Oscar nominations in 2 years in a row, starting in 2009. And then 2011, 2012, he was in Bourne Legacy. And they tried to make him try to take over Matt Damon. That didn't do too well, I guess.
Don't forget Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. He was in Mission Impossible. But yeah, again, he's a supporting role to Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is the man. Okay.
Right.
And then he obviously has the role in the MCU and has Hawkeye in the Avengers movies. But again, they are making a Hawkeye film apparently. But for most of the Avengers films, he is again a supporting role. He's an A-list actor who appears in blockbuster films, and this film is no exception, where he's basically support.
Okay, so you keep calling him an A-list actor. And the more I think of Jeremy Renner is I just don't see him carrying a movie. I don't.
Well, he's being given a Hawkeye movie.
Was he?
And he was given a Bourne movie.
So
And Hansel and Gretel.
But I think the
I feel
problem.
like he's played a supporting role so long though.
Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, so that's the problem that I have is he does continuously have a ongoing supporting role character or a character like Tag, right? So
Which is our friend of the show, Clam.
Sepulveda,
is in that movie.
He is. And but if you look at that, like Ed Helms and Little Ray Howery is billed above him, and John Hamm, and I look at this and I think, why isn't he on top? Like I look at all these people that should be on.
He has name recognition. He has 2 Oscar nominations under his belt. He's a Marvel hero in the biggest franchise in the history of cinema.
Well,
the Avengers franchise.
Let's look at Tag, right? Tag is not a well-known movie. It was a funny movie. I actually enjoyed it.
I did too.
It was one of those movies where I didn't think I was going to like it. I see Buddy Games is coming out this week, and it's going to be came out this week. It's going to be one of those kind of movies that you watch and you kind of forget about. But Tag, I saw on TBS or something like that on cable, and I actually sat down and watched the rest of it because I thought it was kind of funny. But if you look, every single person on the poster for Tag is above Jeremy Renner because it says, and now granted, it does say with Jeremy Renner, but he's the main character. He's the guy that everybody's trying to get.
Well, I guess he's choosing these roles. He likes it that way. I'm guessing that. Because he could easily be. I'm sure people are easily offering him roles for like Bourne kind of movies. Again, action movies.
Sure.
I don't know. I think he
doesn't want to do them. Well, yeah, he is. I think 49 years old now. He's entering the Liam Neeson age of his action career. If you know what I mean. And so he's a character actor who's also been in some of the biggest films of the last 10 years. Let's put it that way.
Well, and I think that if you look at the franchise as far as Avengers, I think he's going to eventually arc to the top because you're seeing, Captain America and Iron Man go, and there's not many people left. I will say, I look. First of all, I'll go on the record immediately saying is I do love the Marvel films. I love the Marvel universe. I don't follow the story all the time. I'm a little wish-washy when it comes to where their characters came from. I don't read the comics. I don't know the background of most of these characters. But I will say that he does seem like the only real person in the movie that doesn't necessarily have a superpower. That he just happens to have these mechanics.
Hawkeye is basically Marvel Universe's Green Arrow. Yeah, so he's just
Pretty
a
much.
guy. He's just a guy.
That being said,
With bows and arrows.
I like his character. I don't know who puts mayonnaise on a hot dog. For those of you who get that reference, but but
I think Jeremy Renner has an interesting place as an actor. That there are very few actors like him. He is an actor who is above the title and well known, but not Tom Cruise well known, in the sense that in this movie he is supporting to Amy Adams, right? But if they had chosen a lesser star, that would have not really been a lesser star, because he's the main male lead basically in this movie. And a lesser star, they needed a bigger star, so they got Jeremy Renner, but they still needed an actor who could be a support, and not, if it was Tom Cruise takes over that movie.
Well, then again,
I don't know. I kind of disagree.
If it's Robert Downey Jr. takes over Arrival. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, in this movie, he has no point in this movie, and
He does.
I disagree, man. Because
Well, let me say what I feel. Watching the movie, I really feel like he comes in just to get the role going for her. But at the end, I mean, what part does he play?
He impregnates her.
later on,
That is very important to the plot of this movie. The daughter plot is integral to the plot of the movie.
Well, he
So who the father
basically
is.
he's doing what she's trying to do while she's having her little flashbacks or flash forwards or whatever you want
So
to call them.
basically, his seed is more important than him in this movie.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's the way the
You know,
movie portrays the character. But if you go back to the book, the theoretical physicist had a bigger role in that. And I think that the reason why he doesn't have a bigger role, one, like I disagree with you guys about him being an A-list actor, because I think even with Amy Adams, when you're a leading actress, but your leading role is still a supportive role, that does not make you top of the bill is like money, right? But like it doesn't make you, in my mind, like the main actor or actress of the show. And I haven't really seen with him, and granted, I haven't seen all these movies you guys have mentioned, so I could be way off base, but I haven't seen the depth of emotion in him that I would expect in a main actor who is supposed to carry a film. And I know you guys are going to disagree with me on this, so let me finish what I'm trying to say about this first. But I think Forrest Whitaker is the person who brings people in and kind of ties them in with the military and keeps things going when the military is wanting to shut things down, because you have that main antagonist. I think the actor's name is like Stauberg or something like that. But I think this is the first film I've seen with Amy Adams where she carries the whole thing. And if you had like a lesser actor than Jeremy Renner, I think that would be totally fine because of the way they put him in the film, because he's a supporting actor with a limited role, when really he's supposed to be tying things together. This whole movie is about cohesion, and it's about this circular thing where things are totally, you don't know where the beginning and the end is. And so that's what they're trying to put together with the art and science with this film, because language is considered an art, even though there's a lot of scientific aspects you see in it because of the film.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from. I don't disagree. But I think he puts himself in the position that he's in sometimes with these films, with picking the parts where he's just happens to sometimes sit on the sideline. Well, when we get back, we'll talk a little bit about Forrest Whitaker, who probably has the biggest of the careers as far as the main actors and actresses in this film, as well as we'll talk a little more about sound, the production, and the director, and then we'll get into the meat of the movie and what we thought, and where we think this movie fits into the year of 2016. We'll be right back.
2, 1. And we're back to the Golden Ticket podcast, brought to you by Rosetta Stone with their new program for only $300, where you learn to interpret coffee stains drawn by our resident alien, and with a 25% discount if you watch Arrival and tune in to our podcast next week. All right, and now we're back on track.
Voided everywhere.
Wait, what?
I said voided everywhere.
Voided everywhere. Only
If you type
only
in
valid on November 23rd.
discount code Abbott and Costello.
If you want to see Jesus in your next coffee stain, here you go.
All right. So let's. So we're talking a little bit about Arrival. We're discussing the whole film. So Hunter, the Johannes,
Johansson, I believe.
Johan Johansson. Like his score, I will say, for this film, very, I guess I wouldn't say minimalistic. Now, in terms of like minimalistic, I would probably say Birdman. It's basically drum and bass. It's nothing but drums the entire time. To me, that's minimalistic, but at the same time, it has a sort of jazzy feel to it that really kind of like pushes the rhythm of the film. Whereas with this, I guess minimalistic in a sense that there's a lot of just droning and disharmonic voices, like a sort of like a choir with that eerie disharmony in it. And while it isn't the best score I've heard out there, it, as Alan Silvestri would like to hear, it is appropriate because it does set the atmosphere really well. It gives you that feeling of uncertainty, and just that feeling of sort of dread, like the fear of the unknown. Are these aliens going to be hostile? Are they going to be friendly? Of course, people going into this film are going to typically expect the aliens to turn bad at some point. Oh, everything's going to start out good. We're going to try and communicate with them, and then they're just going to start blowing everything up. Well, I believe this soundtrack does a really good job of keeping things ambiguous. And then also a little bit more towards the uncertain side, and like giving you more of the impression that things might not end up going as well as you might think.
What I'll say is I actually I watched this movie twice this week because I wanted to see what I would think a little more about, like, could I get any hints in the movie of it was going back and forth to the future? Besides the fact that Amy Adams does not age, I didn't get that. So I watched
that was
it
a little weird.
the second time I watched it on a little 24-inch TV in my office that has speakers that probably are just a step up from headphones. And the entire time it sounded like my speaker was going to blow. Though the first time I watched, I didn't notice it, but I could tell you that the intense moments, the movie's completely different if you don't listen to it with real good sound. As we'll talk later on about other science films, but it was like Interstellar. It's just one of those films that the sound, for me, was very important to get into the film.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. In terms of just like the atmosphere, the music, and including the sounds, even that the aliens make. I think Denis Villeneuve, the way he described the way he wanted these alien beings to sound, he wanted them to sound equal parts frightening but also impressive. And I guess going on to the language section of our discussion, I believe Tamara, you had some blurbs about that. Maybe you could comment on the language being equal parts but frightening yet impressive, and then also the way what was the word? Semisographic? I forget exactly what the term was, but basically conveying your meaning through symbols as opposed to words and having a beginning and an end.
Okay. So yeah, there was actually a whole lot of thought and detail put into the alien language for this movie, which I thought was pretty impressive. So one thing is they, of course, consulted an associate professor of linguistics in Montreal, where they filmed this movie at McGill University. And it was really important for them to convey that linguists were more than just glorified translators. They also work a lot with theory that deals with why humankind has this natural inclination to learn new languages when other species don't, and this social aspect to communicate. So the characters themselves are called logograms, and there's different theories I've heard about like how they came up with these actual symbols, which was kind of interesting. Like one I read about was like they took the Elvish language from J.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and like just put it around in a circle and like tweak some things. But when I was watching the making of the video, they talked about it being more like either a coffee stain from a cup, or they wanted to include certain aspects of the character of the aliens in this. So the aliens, and I don't want to get too much into this part in case Hunter's going to talk about it, but they squirt ink, you know, because they're supposed to be like somewhat symbolic of octopus or octopi or sea monsters. And so the way the ink just kind of curves around in this almost, the book describes it as like a calligraphic illustration. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool about the language was I feel like it ties in a lot to certain themes that I didn't see discussed in blogs and articles, such as the nonlinear theme and the circular plot. I thought that was really neat that was conveyed in the language itself. Sentences seem to be completed from beginning and ending at the same time, which is part of the reason why Amy Adams couldn't do that one symbol on her own. The alien, I think it was Costello, had to help her by doing the other side of it. And then there's a really interesting linguistic theory that they wanted to portray in this movie, which is the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. And that basically means that language influences how we see reality by giving us vocabulary to understand things in a different way.
Yeah, I remember speaking with someone who says that they had, when they think, instead of thinking in voices, they think in pictures. And that's the way there are, and I guess I'm not an expert on this, but I remember just recently looking this up a little bit, where people have thoughts processed instead of just talking to themselves. They see a picture in their mind. And it's very unique that people think, and you can't think both ways apparently. Either you just think words or you just think pictures. But it's just weird when you're that person that doesn't think that way. Does anybody on this cast have, when they think of things, do they think in pictures or voices? Anybody thinking?
I think I definitely think in voices.
But that being said, you know, with the sound in this movie, which was a big part because there's a lot of pauses, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of quietness. So that song, you know, it reminds me, and I look back and I see the director and the music being done by the Sicario. I think there's a lot of main parts where you just see big scenery, right? Is that not both the director and
Yes.
music?
Yeah, he did the Sicario.
And then Prisoners too, which they did together. So those two movies, I look at them and I go, wow, that's kind of, you know, the same thing where they let the sound scene take hold and tell the story instead of just going straight to trying to discuss and give you deposition to it. Moving.
I just wanted to say one other thing about sound. So one of the things I thought was interesting, and it sounds like she had a conversation with Forrest Whitaker about this too, was they wanted her to be able to interpret the sounds of the aliens, and she said no, writing is a much quicker way to actually go about this. And I thought that was pretty interesting because humans can't imitate those sounds. Like you have like this low whale song, you've got some bestiality tones, all of these different things going on that they're able to do because of the kind of creatures they are, and humans can't mimic that.
Well, and they also talk. Go ahead.
Can I add to that? In terms of linguistics, you know, there are cultures that we talk differently, and some sounds cannot be said that we have cannot be said by other cultures, or they find it difficult. For instance, in some Asian countries like Japan, they have trouble saying the L, right? And they pronounce it with an R because the L is not part of their alphabet. And so even adults, Japanese adults, have problems with basically Western L's.
And as New Yorkers, me and Jack could both say we just have problems talking.
Yeah,
That's true.
yes.
I have noticed.
Yes, but I think, but kind of words and pictures kind of transcend sounds. Even letters. Letters are just pictures. They're basically, Chinese alphabet is well, it's not alphabet, but they're basically pictograms, right? Same thing with the Japanese, which adapted from the Chinese, and our alphabet is just 26 drawings that we have associated sounds with.
And I'll point out that Jack is a professor in English.
Yeah.
Even if you're talking about the non-verbal skills, like autistic child has neurodevelopmentally, they can at least understand what pictures mean what.
Right.
So it's just interesting.
Yeah. So you can give an autistic child a tablet with a picture on it, and they will understand what that picture means eventually. Right.
That's a completely different movie.
Yes, but even if they're nonverbal, they can understand. They can associate pictures with
Sure.
words. So that the reasoning behind this movie makes perfect sense. The reasoning behind the thinking of using these kind of coffee stained pictographs makes perfect sense. As First Contact, I've always found it difficult, to be honest. And they in some movies that they hand wave away where different species can talk to each other so easily. Like the Star Trek pictures, right? And eventually, I don't know if anyone's seen the First Contact with the New Generation cast. With New Generation went back in time, and this is how First Contact happened with Zefram Cochrane. And they finally told us how the Earth made First Contact and founded the Federation. It was the Vulcans who made First Contact, right? And of course, it would be the Vulcans who already have technology to translate any language, right? Because that's how they hand waved it away. So because it would make no sense for different alien people, Earth, Martians, Venusians, to speak the same language so easily. But pictograms, that's much easier to understand.
Coffee stains.
Coffee stains.
Well, there's and I love the bit of humor that they have in this film. I think the humor when it comes to one, they talk about what does the Sanskrit word for war, which I looked it up. I believe I'm probably not saying this right. Yudham, Yuddham. I think
there's like actually 150 different words in Sanskrit.
So or it could just be a desire for more cows. So
right.
as that might be.
When you asked us to look into that, I thought about it a little bit, and I didn't, of course, see anything really actually on this, but Sanskrit was the original language for all the scripts in Hinduism, and Hinduism, they consider they don't worship it or consider a cow a god, but they consider them sacred as part of life. And so I'm wondering if it was like a way of talking about preserving life, because I was thinking, oh, well, maybe this is a thing about resources, because wars are always a discrepancy with who has what resources. So.
Well, I have to say that I feel a little foolish, but this is a true story. I was listening to her talk about kangaroos, and she mentions that when they go to the Australia and they point out the jumping little dog creatures, they say, what is that? And they say kangaroo. And then she said that what they didn't know was kangaroo means I don't know in their language. I paused the movie and I looked it up. So I did not hear just moments later, is that true? No.
Well, it was a myth for a long time.
So
from what I've seen.
yeah, exactly. But it's not true. It's something that I guess somebody said one time, and it made the internet. But we'll go more into the film now. And we'll talk a little bit about Forrest Whitaker here in a second, because he's also a main character in this film. He's done a lot of films. He's probably I think he's the best actor in the film. Maybe not the best actor in this particular film, but I love his work. I love great things that he's done some great movies that I love. But he's also a part of the Marvel universe and the Star Wars universe now.
Mhm.
I want to just say, if anyone out there wants to be an actor, this is how you pay your dues. I mean, Jeremy Renner started his career in a National Lampoon movie. Amy Adams started her career in CW TV shows and in Cruel Intentions
Actually,
too.
it goes all the way back to Broadway for her.
Well, in terms of her filmic career,
Hollywood.
right?
Okay.
And her Hollywood career. And Forrest Whitaker, I think one of his first films was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So you have to pay.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
You
That was
have to.
funny.
You have to pay your dues in crappy stuff. And I actually like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
There's actually a lot of movies he was in the early 2000s
Yeah.
that I will say that are a little.
He was in that John Travolta movie. Battlefield, was it Battlefield?
Yeah,
Earth?
Battlefield Earth.
Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And if you want to see, if you've only seen him in these roles that we're talking about, Last King of Scotland, I would recommend.
Best
watching
actor.
it. He won Best Actor and I think the reason why is he plays a guy that is supposed to come across to the public and the people around him as a nice guy, but he's also a dictator.
yeah,
And
he's
it is,
Idi Amin.
and so it's very right, and he's very good with his acting to turn in from this "ha ha ha, how are you" to "I'm going to kill you if you ever do that again." And
Can we talk for a second about the accent Forrest Whitaker has in this movie?
why?
I'm trying to figure out what he was going for. Is that some kind of New York accent, Northeastern accent? I'm not.
The only thing I could think of, and this is, I think he was just trying to be a more like brutal military guy, and I think he does not come across as a soldier in
But
my.
that's no,
so-
because that character's not brutal. He's actually pretty nice.
Right, but I mean, he is a soldier, right? I mean, he
Right.
did have to make his way up to where he is now, and it wasn't based on being a nice guy, as far as we see and interpret the military. So I think that could be it. He just tried to be more of a brutal or a brute accent, which somehow comes over a New York Northeast kind of accent. I don't know, but we will talk about a little more, I think, him as the time goes on because his character in the movie. But Joey, the tagline for this movie.
Right. I could only find one. It's "Why Are They Here?" I thought it was very generic.
Yeah, not only is it generic, but once you actually find out why they are here, is it? And please answer this for me. Do they not really just brush over that? Like, here, take this in really quick because we're not going to talk about it anymore. We're moving on.
Okay, you guys are
Pretty
way off
much.
on this, and let me tell you why. So the point is, this is all the military wants to know. Why are they here? And a lot of this movie has some philosophical concepts that you'll overlook if you're not analyzing it. One is purpose versus choice. What is the purpose for them being here is different than why are they choosing to be here? And everything is about the way the language is constructed. And what Amy Adams's character is trying to do as Dr. Louise Banks is like, she's trying to explain to other people why it's so important to know what you're talking about before you actually say it. And she has to develop a relationship with Abbott and Costello so that they really understand what she's trying to ask. That's all.
Well, I think again, I guess we find that out, and Abbott and Costello really. First of all, it makes me think about The Simpsons. I'm a big Simpson fan. When you think of like squid-based aliens,
Yeah,
I go
King
there.
and Kodo.
Yeah,
Kodos.
and I always think about that. I think, can we come up with better ideas for aliens? I mean, they either have big heads, big eyes, or they're squids. I mean, look at Independence Day and all these
Right.
other sci-fi.
The way I think of it is, I think most people who are writing this stuff, the sci-fi fantasy writers in their heads, they think, well, in other planets, evolution would go a different way, and the non-vertebrates would evolve into the intelligent life forms.
And
You know what I
think
mean?
They hint at some of the differences without by talking about it versus like what you could actually observe. So like when Jeremy Renner talks to someone virtually about why it takes 2 hours to adjust the chamber for oxygen, it's because the atmosphere is different, right? They communicate with ink through their hands. They have different vocal cord devices that they use to talk. I mean, there are a lot of weird differences with these kinds of creatures.
And Tamara, you have said the tetrapods, that's what they're called, I guess.
Heptapods.
The heptapods. Heptapods they are based on kind of like octopuses. And octopuses, if you don't know, octopuses are crazy intelligent beings.
Oh, yeah.
Especially considering that they're just squishy kind of things. They are some of the most intelligent life forms on Earth.
I like to see him try to use my iPhone.
And we eat,
They can
and we
figure it out. They're pretty smart.
and we eat them.
They do.
Just texture.
And we also eat pigs, which are also some of the most intelligent life forms on Earth.
I could see. Well, I think the names that we're saying here, octopus, and it's based on their legs. I think in this, they're 7-legged creatures.
Yeah, there's 7 legs.
Okay.
And they
Yeah.
squirt ink.
And at one point when they were walking, it almost gave me because like you can barely see the top part of them like for like
Right.
most of the film because
fog.
they're like because of the fog. And at one point when they were walking, it looked like Thing from the Addams Family, almost
It's
like
also
a
supposed
giant
to mimic
hand.
spiders, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too. It was.
Well, Jack, so we want to get into this movie now, talk a little bit about what we think of it. That year, the Oscars were very forgettable in my mind.
I actually, we talked about this, and I actually thought at the time we were discussing, hey, look this up, right? And I was thinking, this movie can't have been, it was nominated for Best Picture, I knew that. And I was thinking, it's probably not, I don't know why this would be nominated for Best Picture, right? And then you look at the list, and I'm thinking, Arrival could literally be one of the few films from that year in that terms of Best Picture nominees who last in people's minds.
What films were nominated?
Okay,
there?
so we have Moonlight, which won.
Right.
We have
Well,
La La Land.
which also won apparently.
Yeah, yeah.
For a short
Which
time.
one? And it did win. And it did win for Best Director. La La Land. We have Fences with Denzel Washington.
I believe Hidden Fences is the full title.
No, that's Hidden Figures. I think you're thinking about, Joey.
No.
Oh, right. Yeah, we always get those confused. Excuse me.
We have Hidden Figures, which is another film, different film.
Completely
We have-
different.
Hell or High Water, which I think has Jeff Bridges in it.
Uh-huh.
We have Lion, and we have Manchester by the Sea, and we have Arrival.
Those are all dramas, right?
Yes.
Does anybody know the highest grossing film that year?
I do not.
Okay, I'll say number 5 is actually The Jungle Book. Number 4 is The Secret Life of Pets. Number 3 is a Marvel film. Everybody remember what else came out that year? That was Civil War.
Right.
Captain America.
Yeah.
Then there was a Star Wars film. Anybody know that one? Rogue One. And the reason I mention this is because
So Forrest Whitaker was also in the number 2 film. this
right,
year.
exactly. So
Yeah.
and Jeremy Renner was in.
What
Captain
is
America.
number 1 Batman versus Superman?
No, Finding Dory.
Really?
Number 1.
Was that
Wow.
was that 2016?
2016. Finding Dory made 486 million. This
Wait,
is
so you're looking at the
National.
2016 Oscars, or are you looking at the 2017 Oscars?
I'm looking at the box office results.
Okay, because I just want to make sure we're doing it for the right time frame that the movie came out. Because
The
I thought
movie
Jack
came
brought
out-
up a really good
I am
point last
telling
time.
you. I am telling you.
So we're talking. So none of these movies, the top 5 movies that year, none of them were nominated for Oscar, and that's okay. That's usually the case.
None of them were dramas either, though, so it shows
You're
a
right,
lot of
no.
disconnect.
Correct. Now, if you look at the other movies that year that came out, first of all, one, Force Awakens, actually, because it came out in December, if you look at 2016.
Most of its money is made in January.
Came out in the top 10. It was number 10. Then you have Suicide Squad, Batman versus Superman, Zootopia, which is behind Tamara and Joey there, and Deadpool. But
but the disconnect between the Oscars, and this wasn't always the case. I suggest anyone look at the Oscars nominees from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, going into the 90s, and they were always some of the top films of the year, grossing films, okay?
Right.
But the disconnect in the last, I think, 10, 15, 20 years of what the Oscars think is good and what people think is good is very, very different. And you remember the year that The Dark Knight and WALL-E both came out and were nominated for nothing. And were not nominated for Best Picture. And after that, that's when they expanded the list to up to 10, because there was such an outcry. Like, really? All these films are better than The Dark Knight?
Well, what I will say is, first of all, that year, if you look at Arrival, it actually wasn't the highest gross alien film out there. There was a franchise one, Independence Day Resurgence,
Right.
Came out, and it came in 27th at 103 million, where Arrival came out at 91 million. But that just says something about it, because Independence Day is a very successful movie. To have its sequel come out and just beat out, I mean, when I say just beat out, $7 million, $8 million, Arrival, which just shows in November.
And I can't even remember the Independence Day sequel. It's so forgettable.
Right, and it wasn't even the top. It was the third highest grossing film the weekend it opened. It opened at 24 million.
Well, I think this film had issues with how it was marketed. It's a very, very complicated film. If you told people what it's really about, it's about linguistics and time travel. And people are going to go, no. And, if you do some research, the original title of this was the story of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a short story.
And it's about Hannah, basically.
Right.
It's referring to Hannah.
They had to change the title though because the audience just
and
didn't
they change
appreciate
it, and they change it to something completely generic. Let's admit it.
Well, I think
completely generic.
I think Arrival though does kind of bring in the alien. Like Independence Day means nothing to aliens, right? So when you think of
I think Arrival could be for any alien movie.
I think it does market though the alien movie, but it does market that it is an alien movie,
right?
But
I think they had problems marketing this.
Well, I think the marketing, and we'll get to that in a second here with the trailer. It's completely something I didn't expect. I did not see this as a. I knew it was an alien film, and I knew it had Amy Adams. I was interested. That was it. It was good actress, love aliens, let's do it. And I watched it, and I was surprisingly like, well, I didn't expect that. It wasn't a bad movie, but it's not the type of alien film. I like Independence Day. I like Mars Attacks. I like those alien films. I didn't see this. And then I saw it. I was like, "Well, this is great." Well, so the Oscars that year, right? I'll just say,
and Amy Adams was nominated for nothing.
If you guys show me, raise your hands here when I ask if you saw this year, and that's Oscars, and it's a little different.
In 2016,
if you saw period, if you ever seen these movies, Moonlight. Okay, so there's two of us, me and Jack. Arrival, I guess we've all seen, so we can skip that. Fences. Me and Jack. Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh.
Okay, me, Tamara, and Hunter. Hell or High Water. Me and Joey. And then we'll go to La La Land. Me and Hunter. So these movies are not movies that stuck around. Lion, I actually didn't see that, so nobody saw it. You did. Okay.
It was great.
Honestly, I purposely avoided this movie.
Lion?
That they made mainstream.
Arrival.
Oh, okay. And Manchester by the Sea. So just me. Okay.
Parts of it.
That was also a fantastic movie. But the reason I did this is just to say Jack is right when it comes to what movies will stick out. Now, Moonlight was a fantastic movie. I get why it won Oscar. And I look at Fences. I love Fences. I love dialogue movies, and that's all that is. It's just two people.
And it's a play.
I know. I saw it as a play prior to I saw it as a movie, but it is great dialogue. Hacksaw Ridge. I honestly, out of all the films, and I do like Arrival, but Hacksaw Ridge is the movie of the year for me.
But it's not. Is that the Mel Gibson movie?
Yeah,
It's not going to win.
Mel Gibson. I know. I get that, and I think it has a lot of.
I was stunned that was nominated for anything because of Mel Gibson.
And then Hidden Figures. I actually jumped over that. I think everybody's seen Hidden Figures, right? No, what?
I've
Not
seen
yet.
parts of it.
Well, I'm the only person. That is a fantastic movie. I would even say Hacksaw Ridge is more my kind of movie. So I'll give.
So what's the worst movie on that list?
I would say Hell or High Water. I'm not sure why it was a movie of the year. I don't know. It's not my type of movie, so I can't say anything.
I think that's another issue with the Oscars, right? You want 10 listed, but they could be all different kinds of
Well,
movies.
it
If you
doesn't
look at
have to be
top grossing movies, people want to watch
Well,
actions and
but
comedies. They don't
I think-
necessarily want to get in touch with their feelings, and dramas do that.
I'm sure as everyone's heard that last year they attempted to create a new kind of category, most popular film, or what was it? Something like that.
Most attended film. Yeah, I think it's a popular film or something.
And I think the movie studios wanted that because they knew that that Disney really wanted that, right? So,
right.
And eventually there was such a backlash against that.
Because this isn't about art.
I feel like that's kind of BS too, though. Why not just have a category for the genres, each genre?
If you don't know, when the Oscars first started in 1929 or 1920, no, it would be 1927 or 1927.
I'll look that up while you go on.
Okay, but when they first started, the first categories for best film, they were a best production and best artistic production, and there were two winners. So there were two films won, one for best artistic reasons and one for best overall production. And they stopped that almost immediately and made it just one film. But, if they're not going to even recognize the kind of films people want to watch, that people are watching, let's face it. I mean, you could think The Avengers is a terrible film. I don't think most people do, but people wanted to see that, and people love it. So why is it one of the best pictures of the year?
Right, and it's about art. I think that when you think about the Oscars, it's about art. It's not about the best.
No,
right?
it's not. No. Joey, come on, stop. Do you really think Vice was an artistic film, or was it just a Dick Cheney hatchet job that most of the people who vote for the Academy agree with?
What I'm saying, though, is why not have best action film of the year, best drama of the year, best comedy of the year?
The Golden Globes have best comedy.
Yeah. So okay. The idea of this is, what is the best picture? What is the best film altogether? You're talking sound. You're talking directing. You're talking all this. The film itself does not. I don't believe the film itself has to have any good context to it. I mean, you don't. You need good writing. But it doesn't.
But I think this is happening since I was in film school a long time ago. That there is a disconnect between the things.
Sure.
The people who run the Oscars. These are the films that they want themselves to see.
So let's go.
But
let's
not
go.
the general audience.
Let's talk about La La Land, right? I love musicals. Jack loves musicals. La La Land, I don't get it. I just don't get La La Land. I love some obscure musicals, and I like some popular musicals, but La La Land that opened up that year, I don't know how that was nominated. I don't understand why.
Because Hollywood loves making films about itself. That's why The Artist won.
Hunter, you saw it.
I love The Artist, though.
Why do you think it was included as one of the best pictures?
Honestly,
Joey?
I guess because of its unorthodox ending for like a musical. Usually a lot of musicals that I see like have a happy ending, whereas like where these two people come together, they seem to click and be absolutely perfect for one another. It addresses the fact that what was the phrase I heard just recently? Maybe love for a person never changes, but time is the thing that changes. And and these two people, they, even though like they are like practically like soulmates, they're like perfect for each other, life and time just pulls them apart and in two different directions, and a lot of times you just can't do anything about it. It happens. I feel it was a very real
Hunter,
ending that
Hunter,
happens.
Hunter, that is the plot of The Way We Were, starring Robert Redford and Barbara Streisand from the 1970s.
I have
Well-
to say that I've seen about a dozen films that end that way. A love story.
And if you want an unhappy ending musical, Chicago won the Best Picture.
Well, God,
That's one.
I don't get that. I look. I don't get.
Okay, so if these are the movies that they want to watch to be able to nominate for things, why was it included then? I mean, Hunter gave a solution, but why do you guys think?
I think Hollywood
Well-
loves making movies about
Well,
Hollywood.
wait. I also think there's some things to add. First of all, I want to make a point before we get off this is Hacksaw Ridge made $64 million. That was the next nominated film and it came in that year. And I'm looking it made $67 million. And that opened up the week before. It's at 48th. So we can think about the top 50 films. Only 2 of the Oscars are in there. But I also point out that as far as the Oscars go, La La Land did have great. The music was okay to me. Unlike where I could sit down and listen to The Greatest Showman, which I know is campy music on purpose. I could talk about Hamilton. I can listen to those songs on a daily basis. La La Land, I heard that song, I liked it during the movie, and I will never listen to it again. And it's annoying because by the end of the movie, I heard that song 1,000 times, I felt like, which I'm sure that's not true.
I think La La Land is the kind of movie that Hollywood loves about itself. Joey, you saw it. I haven't seen it, okay? Is Emma Stone, who won the Best Actress, better than Amy Adams, who was not even nominated?
I absolutely think that Emma Stone should have won over everyone except, and I'm forgetting her name in Fences. I do think that. I really do think Emma Stone was great.
Viola Davis.
Yes, that's it, Viola Davis.
Amy Adams was not nominated.
Right. Not Amy Adams. Sorry, Emma Stone. I don't like
Right,
that.
but I actually what you think her performance was better than Amy Adams?
I will say that the film should have not been up there, but I do think Emma Stone was the best actress that year. Maybe I believe I've already forgot her name from. But
Viola Davis.
Yes, wasn't Davis also in Hidden Figures, or am I?
I don't think so.
No, she wasn't.
No, she was in the The Help. She was
Help,
nominated
right.
for an Oscar for that.
I feel very terrible about mixing up just because it's movies based on black women. But yes, the Hidden Figures was also a great movie. See, here's the thing. I think out of all those films, Hidden Figures is the movie I could sit down and watch on a daily basis and like have in the background. Hacksaw Ridge is one where I want to sit down and watch with somebody else. And the rest of the films, including Arrival, is one of those that I think I could just kind of. Well, no, I'll talk more about Arrival because I don't think it fits in any of those categories.
I think it's one of those films. I think Arrival was one of those films. And I know we're going to talk about. I think Arrival was one of those films that you appreciate it while you're watching it. You don't need to watch it again.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
So I think if you look at the Best Actress, Emma Stone should have won. For those who were nominated, Meryl Streep and Florence Foster Jenkins, I think was just a give me like, oh yeah, she has to be nominated. She's Meryl Streep. Natalie Portman as Jackie Kennedy, I don't think was. I saw the movie and I don't remember it, so I don't think it was like a good actress.
Nobody remembers it.
Yeah.
And I don't, Isabel. I don't remember if I saw that film. I remember trying to see that year every nominated film, but I do agree with Manchester by the Bay too. I think that
By the Sea.
By the Sea. I think it was a great film, and I think he did a great job acting in it. Ryan Gosling is not a good actor and should not have been nominated, and I think that's wrong. And Denzel Washington did a great job in Fences as well. So I think I agree. I don't know if there's anything I saw better that year, but we'll move on to the idea.
By the way, the Arrival did win one Oscar that it was nominated for.
Was it Sound?
Sound.
Yeah,
And deservedly so.
I think so. What was nominated with it? Sound mixing. I knew was Hacksaw Ridge because all the shooting. I mean, how can't you? And then there was Deepwater Horizon, which I was actually this is the best sound editing. Arrival won, and it was Hacksaw Ridge, Deepwater Horizon, La La Land, and Sully, which I think it's an easy. I think it's an easy one there. I don't Hacksaw Ridge sound editing could have maybe beat it because there are so many shooting and blowing up moments. And the songs in that movie really get you into it. But Arrival, just like I said, if you're not listening to that film right, it doesn't go well. So I will say we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the trailer. So if you sit back and if you're listening, you can listen to the trailer. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for everybody so we can see a real quick trailer.
There are days that define your story beyond your life. Like the day they arrived.
Signs of what might be called first contact. The objects measure at least.
I'm Colonel G.T. Weber from Army Intelligence. Pack your bags. You're at the top of everyone's list when it comes to translations.
Priority 1. What do they want? Where are they from? You'll be reporting to me, but you'll be working with him when you're in the show.
That's what they call in the UFO.
Who's being carted off in the medevac?
Not everyone is wired for what you're about to do.
So what do they look like?
You'll see soon enough.
Every 18 hours, a door opens up. That's where we go in.
It's done. Yeah, that just happened.
What happens now?
They arrive.
They need to see me.
Dr. Banks? Are you insane?
Now that's a proper introduction.
More objects have landed around the world.
This is one of 12. I'm never going to be able to speak their words.
Got 2 days.
Figure something out.
I am human. It's their language. We need to make sure that they understand the difference between a weapon and a tool. Language is messy, and sometimes one can be both.
Are you dreaming in their language? It's possible they're prodding us to fight among ourselves.
This is just a way to force us to work together for once.
It's more complicated than that.
How is it more complicated?
Russia just executed one of their own to keep their secret
Got 21 hours.
before they start global war.
So how do we clarify their intentions?
I go back in.
Well, does this feel worse?
All right. Well, I have to say that Tamara, I think you wanted to bring up a point here. I think when it comes to what you thought about the trailer, because I know you actually didn't watch this until after we talked about what we were going to watch, and you said you've never seen it before, and there was a reason for it. What was that?
Yes. So when I first watched this trailer, maybe it was the music in the background, some of the uncertainty that was conveyed with the movie, but I thought it was kind of like a thriller, very suspenseful, probably kind of scary. And at the time, I didn't want to see a movie like that. When I started learning more about it, I'm one of those like niche geeky populations that would absolutely love a movie about linguists or about time travel, or I love sci-fi, so I think if they had made a couple different trailers, maybe to suit different audiences, to explain the movie in a different way to people, they might have gotten more attendance in movie theaters.
Yeah. They basically show you every action scene that's in this movie. They make you think that this is an Independence Day kind of movie. And it's not. It's clearly not. It's a very, very quiet movie, actually. And you've basically seen all the action that happens in that trailer.
So I have to ask all you guys. So this movie, let's ask Jack. Jack, what would you compare this movie to as far as films out there? What did it make you think of when it came to, because this sometimes happens.
First of all, basically two movies that came to mind in terms of sci-fi space movies. One is Interstellar. That's the clearest kind of comparison. They came out very close to each other. Interstellar, Christopher Nolan's film with Matthew McConaughey, Jessica Chastain, also has, I don't want to say elements of time. It does have elements of time travel, but in a very different kind of way people travel through time in that one. And I think this one does it better, even though I buy the explanation that language can make you travel through time. No. I don't buy that. But I think this is actually a much less complicated film than Christopher Nolan's
You
film.
just blew up so many hopes out there. And what was
the second film is The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951, not the Keanu Reeves version that came out. I forget when it came out.
2008.
Yeah, that sucked. But the 1951 version with Michael Rene as Klaatu, the alien, with Gnort, the giant robot, and basically he comes to Earth and he's an alien. And he looks like a human though, although Gnort does not. He's the robot overlord. But he says, but everybody's, she said, I give you stuff. And people will say, no, and eventually they kill him. And Gnort said, and then basically Michael Rene has Klaatu says, we offered you a chance, and you are so violent that you will eventually be overcome by Gnort and his people. We offered you the opportunity. We offered you the gift. Remember the gift. This movie has that. We offered you the gift.
Right.
And in this movie, they accept the gift, thanks to Amy Adams. In The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is a very classic film, humans are trash, and they kill the people who are offering them a chance, to have peace in their time. And so it's a very the kind of imagining of how First Contact is. Again, Star Trek has the Vulcans. Of course, if the Vulcans were our first contact, that would be awesome. They kind of look like us. They just have kind of pointy ears, and they're really smart. These are the best kind of quasi-humans ever.
They also have no emotions, just saying.
Yes, but that would be a positive for some people.
And what about you, Tamara, as far as films go for comparison? What would you say?
Well, I was thinking about this while Jack was talking, and it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't remember when it came out. It was a while back, but Memento, just the way it's like a very non-linear kind of storyline. But what this actually reminded me of was something from real life for me. And I know this sounds kind of crazy because this is an alien movie, right? I have not had any contact with aliens, I promise. But my real life, when I'm not in a podcast,
we believe you now because you promised.
Of course, So in real life, I'm a psychiatric nurse and I work with children. And so sometimes it's very easy to use previous situations to kind of influence or color the way you would view a current situation. And if you're not paying attention to all the forms of communication, you might miss something and misinterpret that someone's being more aggressive than they actually are. And so I think that's one of the things that really spoke out to me about this movie was human nature and the fear of the unknown do not work well together in a lot of ways. So they talk about rioting in this. They talk about this cult that burns down their compound. They talk about the soldiers who try to blow up the spaceship basically because of this fear of the unknown. They really don't understand what's going on. And it's one of the key points of things being lost in translation, essentially, with the poor communication when you don't really understand. So I think you have to be really careful when you're interacting that you are clear of what people are saying.
And I don't know if we want to get to the ending now, but poor communication, how about good communication? Because when Amy Adams tells Jeremy Renner, Oscar, about the daughter, I always knew. Basically, that's the gist of it, right?
Sure.
She tells him, "I knew we were going to get married. I knew we were going to have a kid. I knew she was going to die."
Yeah, and you can sense that from the beginning.
And
almost.
he leaves her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they do a
and
good job
she-
explaining why.
And she because he's angry, basically. But
No, I understand. I don't think the
and
movie does a good job.
I think it was a mistake not to have him a scene with him in the future, in the fast forward. I mean, there is that scene with the daughter, so that we know that he's the father. But there is no scene of them talking, and there's no scene of him walking out.
No, there's no feeling there. I mean, at the end,
Right.
I do think that is a mistake. Now, Hunter, you've seen quite a few Alien movies, I'm sure, but if you had to compare this movie to a movie on your pretty big list, what would you say?
There we go. I would definitely compare it to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like I always like how they communicated with language. They kind of in that one scene, like towards the end there, they were communicating with like music, and then of course it hits that like really loud note and all the glass shattered.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny, but yeah, communicating in different ways like that. But like one thing I don't know why, like I didn't think of this as well. When Jack mentioned The Day the Earth Stood Still, I was just like, oh my God, that's like right, like nail on the head right there. Like I totally agree with that one as well. But yeah, like probably those two right there.
And Joey, what would be your comparison if you had any?
Well, pretty much everybody said the ones, but
Okay.
maybe like War of the Worlds, just for
Different
aliens
supplies,
coming
yeah.
by. You know.
Well, I will say that I agree with all of you when it comes to most of the films you've already brought up. UHF is what I think about when I think of aliens, because I am wearing the Devil's Tower shirt today. And if you get the reference, good for you. There's a reason. There's a meaning to this. I have to say that it is funny because
Wasn't that Weird Al?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes, that was Weird Al. There's a part. I've been to Devil's Tower. That's where the third encounter was. Right, third encounter. The first encounter of the third kind. That was where that was.
The closest encounter.
What was it called? The close encounter of the third kind.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know why I can't keep those straight, but it was filmed there, and also it's right next to Montana. If you guys have ever been up there, you could get to Yellowstone from there. It's a very common trip people take. And I have a theater. We have Golden Ticket Cinemas in Butte, Montana, right down the road, and between Butte, Montana, and Rapid City, South Dakota, where we have 2 golden tickets, it stands Devil's Tower, and you could stop along the way. You could hit both theaters, Devil's Tower and Yellowstone, and Cody, Wyoming. I'll give a shout out there too. Great town, but I understand why it's so weird out there and why Montana would be the place the ship would go over. I like that part where they go over the Midwest. I guess that's just the way of.
And that's a sign. That's a sign. I mean, in Independence Day, they go over New York and destroy it.
And
right?
Washington.
Right. And here they're going over. Nobody lives there. That's a sign. They come in.
This is a good part of our listeners live there.
All right. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm sorry, listeners. I am an obnoxious person from New York. And now
This is what we're talking about when we're saying, like, your reality and your language kind of color the way you see things, right?
Yes. I'm just an obnoxious person from New York who now lives in Texas. But the idea that they would go over some kind of rural area is a sign that they come in peace.
Sure.
They could have gone over New York.
Yeah, but they decided let's not scare people.
The idea. I know this is 2016, so I don't know when this movie is supposed to take place. But the idea, okay, let's just talk a little about politics. Why would they go over Sudan?
It was supposed to be present day.
Yeah, so Sudan in 2016.
That was one of the points in the movie was why did they pick the 12 sites they picked? And in the book, it was 112. But they were trying to make it more significant.
But it's like some areas make sense and some areas don't. That's how they come in peace.
Let's talk about the 12 and what the big deal that meant. Now, first of all, as we all know, and our prayers go out to the St. Louis Pentecostal cult in North Dakota, where they burnt themselves down in their church, as we all heard on the radio announcement during the film. 12 is a big number there's 12 months in a year. 12 is a big number as far as a lot of things go. So I like how they did bring it down to the 12 instead of the 112 to make it more symbiotic to a lot of things as far as people who enjoy the I hate to say it, but superstitions of numbers, and I liked how they did
numerology.
That. Yeah. And so we'll talk a little more, I guess. I mean, we had so much to go over with this movie because aliens and everything else. But I will say, if aliens came down, they talked about rioting and everything else. And today's day and age, we look at what could cause a riot. I mean, toilet paper. I mean, am I right? 2020?
Yeah.
What would happen if aliens did come down? Where would we be? Would we quarantine like this? Would everybody stop working and just go home?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I feel.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah.
The government would tell us to.
Don't go out there. There's aliens. You know, it's like.
No, go out there and shake hands with Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would get out. Like, it's all those fun things of an alien ship goes over Montana. Do they quarantine Montana? Does anybody get to leave the state? Butte, for those of you out there, what do you think would happen?
Oh my gosh, they get into their Winnebagos and make a trip out of it. They go out into like
It
the
would be
open
like
country.
Independence Day.
Montana, let's go on a road trip.
Exactly.
Montana would be like, huh? Another tourist stop. Let's do it. We'll beat.
I think it would be like Thor, where they'd like quarantine off that specific area and not want really anyone to know about it until they knew more, because there was 12 different sites. There was no way you could really hide this.
No, there's no way to hide it. I think there'd be people. You have.
I do think if it was just like in this movie, and this is one of the problems I had with this movie, and although I recognize that there are some elements of truth in that, is that they hyped up the hysteria of let's kill the aliens. The aliens arrived at 12 different sites. They are doing nothing.
Yeah.
Unlike Independence Day, where they just instantly blow up crap. They're doing nothing, and they do nothing for days or months, however long it is. It must take a long time to decipher all the coffee stains. So they've got to be there for weeks.
So the spaceships opened up every 18 hours.
Right.
Right.
So it would be like a daily kind of encounter.
And it took how long did it take? How long does it take?
I think they refer to it as being almost 3 months at one point. So there's over
after
months.
3 months of the aliens doing nothing, I think most of the population of the Earth would go, these guys are cool.
She's in school, and then it's September. So you would assume it's over a whole summer. Because it does refer to months.
Time is weird in this movie because not only do we have the flash forwards and the flashbacks, but Amy Adams does not age in this movie.
Yeah, that's weird.
she is. I have a professor too. I know this. She is so far above me. She's not only a PhD. She's not only a tenured professor. She has a fantastic looking house, which she lives in by herself, which she must have bought by herself on the lake.
Yeah.
And she's world famous, right? And she's world famous, so she's got to be like in at least her mid-30s. So she has a kid. So by the time Hannah dies, she's got to be close to 50. I'm guessing.
I think maybe the reason she doesn't age is these are memories of things that haven't actually happened yet. These are this is supposed to be foresight in some ways, right? These are future events that haven't actually happened, and you don't realize it until later in the movie when things kind of come together a little more.
Right.
Because this is really the story of how all of that started. Well, and so I wonder if she doesn't change because her identity of herself hasn't changed. Maybe it's just
I don't age in my memories. I'm still a 12-year-old kid every time I think about something.
I'm my age all the time.
I see that for you.
I don't remember myself as a young kid, I guess.
When I have memories of my future, I usually see myself as the same age. So
it's a unique scenario. It's not making fun of me.
But it is a bit weird that in a movie that's got such a big budget and it's put so much thought into pretty much everything.
$46 million budget.
Yeah, but they put so much thought into everything. That they didn't say, you know what, we need some makeup lines on Amy here.
I don't know.
We could just give her a little bit of a widow's. And not only that, but they actually, again, she's supposed to be in her mid-30s, but they do downplay her age in the film. I feel they put a lot of. Granted, Amy Adams is a hard person to figure out what her age is, In some of
She's
these
like
movies,
40. She's like 43.
right. But I'm saying in films, they sometimes make her like Enchanted. She probably is supposed to be in her 20s, early 20s, maybe even earlier than that. And then you have this this film, Our Fighter, where you look and she's in her 40s and 50s.
And Elegy and she's in the Hillbilly Elegy. She's the mom of the main character.
She does look aged in this. And
she does.
Yes, they do not glamorize her in any way.
Sure. And so when you look at that, I think it's a little weird when you think about the time and what her character could always play and the range that she could play as far as ages. Well, does anybody have a favorite line in this film? My favorite line is the radio explaining that St. Louis Pentecostal Church, Pentecostal cult lit themselves on fire. But
I have one. It's probably the last line of the movie.
Yeah, it's my favorite too.
It's like
One Other Baby?
They're hugging after they are about to leave the site. And they go, oh, I forgot how, she said, I forgot how good it felt to be held by you. And then he goes, you want to make a baby? And it's like out of nowhere. I know they're in like a flash forward, but it's like, what in the world? I was very confused by that.
Anybody out there ever use that line? Let us know.
I
Does
think
it work?
she does that because she's like, I know this is supposed to happen, so I don't really care. It's fine.
Well, I also think the imagineering of making this film a little different. You talk about Interstellar. You can talk about any film. They had the spaceship was different. They did have the whole octopus alien thing, but I forgive them on that for many reasons. But when you also, in the book, if you're referring off a book, it's hard to change. But there was a lot of different things that you just don't see. You saw alien technology with the elevator of human technology,
which was pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah, just to see how humans had to make things work. We do this when terrible accidents happen. You see how things are being used for different things, and you see how these things work. And I think it's very important to how would this work? I think they really did sit down and go, how would this work?
I think one of my favorite scene in this movie, and maybe that's because that's the English person in me, is there's this significant scene, several minutes long, where I forget if it's Renner or I think it's Amy Adams explaining how linguistics work, how the communication works. Yeah, it's Amy Adams. What does Renner do? but she's explaining in the voiceover exactly how this communication works, how they're putting this together, how they're slowly making words to figure out what everybody is saying. And that's something most movies do not spend time doing.
It made you think about it.
Explaining the plot.
Right, and I like sometimes, like Independence Day has a great way to explain the plot. It's all news. And they do it on news televisions throughout the movie. And something Joey brought up to me when we were talking about Independence Day, I didn't know this, but they use real news anchors throughout the film of Independence Day, so it seems real. And so the exposition through the film of Independence Day is brought to you by the news, and it feels real. You know what's happening. But it's such a great way to get it through.
You could tell a bad film by how lousy they insert exposition to explain things to the audience. There's always that one scene in some films where basically all the main characters are together and they said, "As you know." Well, nobody in real life says that, because if I said "as you know it. Why would I say it to you? So they're basically explaining it to the audience because they think you're dumb and you haven't figured out what's going on yet. So I think good ways to explain how this movie works, like this explanation of linguistics, is that's really good creative writing there. And
Hunter, I'll just go to you real quick. As far as the making of this film, it was Montreal, and I know they used Canada, and one of the major things, Jeremy Renner was doing Civil War at the time, so he was splitting his time with the film. How does this take place? Where do they put this film? Do they put this film in a field somewhere, a green screen, a studio, How would they make this film, and how do you work with an actor that is working with another film? Do you just wait, like, here he's on the land for 2 weeks, get him done? How does that work?
Well, it's crazy because like she is in pretty much like every scene of the film, so it's hard to see where they might have broken off to film other things like in between, like her like going back and forth. So it must have been a really
that Amy
really
Adams,
tight
I think,
schedule.
was there. It was Jeremy Renner that was offset for a while.
Oh, he was offset because I know like
assistants, right?
I think it all comes down. I think it all comes down to the shots that, the shots that they do, like how many close-ups were there, how many shots were there of just Amy Adams. They could have easily just shot all of Jeremy Renner's scenes in like 1 week or a little bit more. It kind of clustered them together, and then filmed all the rest of Amy Adams' scenes where she's like by herself, or shots of the other actors that were with them in that room when they were like communicating with the aliens. Yeah, a lot of times when an actor has a conflicting schedule, they try and get all of their scenes like out of the way so that they can wrap them as fast as possible, so they don't have to worry about them anymore. Like
Are you in? So it says that in principal photography for Civil War was in Pinewood, Atlanta. Is that near you? Is that? Yeah. That's where you are. The studios, and then Fayetteville County is where it was filmed. So I guess that was you weren't there at the time, but Metro Atlanta is a lot of it being filmed for the city shots with obviously higher effects being done. They also did some in Germany as well. So he was probably just having to come back from Canada, spending a week. I mean, granted, this film, it's not like high budget. Well, I mean, there's high budget scenes, but not with him shooting arrows. So I guess that they probably just throw him on there. But I do find that fun to know that actors are willing to take. I mean, if I was in Civil War, I'd say no to everything else at the time, because I want to put all my energy into this because it's a big film. It's going to be huge. So I like the fact that he was able to get his own little side film. It was a major part, but wasn't a major part.
Well,
and,
he also really didn't have a lot to do in Civil War until like the end, where they were fighting.
And he doesn't have a lot to do in this movie.
Yeah, so
that's true.
He made a good budget, a good paycheck at the end of the year. So. Yeah. All right. Well, wrapping things up, what I will just say.
Can we talk about the ending?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah.
Basically, this movie revolves around this ending because it's the circular plot. It begins with a daughter and it ends with a daughter, and the original storyline is the story of your life, and she's talking about Hannah. She's talking to Hannah. She knows, thanks to these aliens. It's not just that she saved the world from from basically killing these aliens. That's not the plot. The plot is she knows, thanks to what the knowledge that they have given her, that she and Jeremy Renner are going to have a child. They're going to be happy, and then this child, who she loves so much, is going to die at the age of 12, and that she will experience it. She's already seen it before it happens, and she has the decision to say, do I go through with this?
Yeah, that's why she asked if you had the opportunity to change your life, would you?
I feel like there's so much more in this movie than just the part about the daughter, even though that was meant to be the focus. I feel like it's a really key part that she gets this weapon or tool, which is another whole part of the movie. That's a point that comes up, of how she can have foresight into certain things in the future because she has more language for dealing with things, which I didn't get a chance to say my favorite line in the movie. That's okay, Joe.
Say your favorite line. Go ahead.
I like the Mandarin line, which I really just like the translation of it, that like it's about war, but basically this is the part where she kind of like seals the deal with the movie and saves everything. So the line is, in war, there's no winners, only widows. And like when I was watching the making of this before I actually watched the movie, I was like, that's so lame. But this is how the world unification kind of happens, and China steps down, and therefore the 3 countries that are following suit with China also step down.
Right.
So that was my favorite line of the movie. But I also think that her foresight is what allows her to see these things, but there's another layer underneath it all, which is this whole determinism versus free will. So she knows this stuff is going to happen, and that kind of brings in a lot of the physics to this as well, which I don't think we have time to talk about, and that's okay.
That ending has such a weird paradox. It's such a weird time paradox.
But because
she saves the world by telling the Chinese general his wife's last words, which she only knows because she's already seen the future, him telling her, because apparently she must have told him to give her number, and she must have said, 10 years from now, we're going to meet. And this is what you're going to say to me, General.
Yes.
You must have said that to him.
I think it's like 4 months, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
But what I'm saying, though, is like if they had shown that scene where Jeremy Renner is leaving, he gets a choice in that moment to say, like, was his purpose just to kind of bring this daughter into this world or not? And she feels like everything is predetermined, like this was meant to happen. She does share it with him. But, like, it brings up this whole idea of, like, these 2 concepts, and do we have these things in reality?
That's why that would have been a good scene, because we
There might be a deleted scene.
We could have seen the other side of that. Jeremy Renner saying, no, I would not have made that decision.
Redeeming himself a bit in the movie, I think, is important. So I will say, as far as that goes, there's a couple of things I'll ask as well. How do you allow, with a window every 18 hours, allow rogue military people to put bombs on a spaceship without you knowing?
So they knew it. They knew it. So
that's why they saved them. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. One of the things with their language and the way they think about time as nonlinear is they're making decisions based on the past, the present, and the future simultaneously. So they knew this was going to happen. Which is why they timed it the way they did. The aliens do. Yeah.
But the people don't. How do you miss that?
So the bomb wasn't facing them, right? You had the timer facing in a different direction, and it was with a bunch of supplies that is always in there. They were the only 2 up there. They were without a crew, and this was the second time going up, which was also an unusual thing.
We need to work on our military. We need to make sure that nothing that is not approved.
And was anybody punished for this, or what? I don't know.
But then at the end, she steals a cell phone. It's like all haywire. It's like her military has no grip on security at that place. We got to do better.
And they're willing to shoot her. There's that echoes back. If you remember, it echoes back to the scene with the Russians, and they overhear the Russians killing their own scientists.
Right.
So people, and they're willing, and this agent is willing to shoot her.
Well, it's overt corruption versus hidden corruption, right?
Yeah. Well, what I'll say on my part, as far as the ending, I have to say, when I was watching the ending of the film, I hate time travel in films. I think it's a petty way.
It's hard to pull.
So you're saying you hate Back to the Future?
We'll get there.
Okay.
But as far as I do hate time travel, Infinity War, I'm sorry to say it, guys, but it's one of those films where I'm like, I wish we didn't. I loved it, but I wish we didn't have to use time travel.
You mean Endgame?
Endgame, Infinity War, right? Yeah, sorry, my bad. But both of those, just to know that it was going to lead to that, because they were going to end Infinity War with
people alive.
Yeah, exactly. Something was going to happen, and we knew it had to mean that things had to go back. But I still don't like time travel. And I was watching this, and I'm like, I don't like this. This doesn't make sense. I hate time travel. And then I watched it, and at the end, I forgave it. I said, this is a good movie. I like what they did. I understand what they did. It tricked me. It made me believe things and that weren't happening, and then it was happening. It was great experience. I would say 10 minutes before the credits, I hated the film. At the credits, I love the film. That's how I feel about it as far as that goes. But we'll be back. We'll talk a little more about what we thought of the film. We'll also talk about some of our favorite time travel and alien films, and we'll also let you know what we're doing next week for some of our films. We'll be right back. All the way through, it was one of those films I think that I'm not sure if it's going to be remembered in 10 years, but I sure liked it. What do you think?
I believe it's one of those films that really flew under the radar. Like, just the way it was marketed, it was just marketed as another one of those alien invasion flicks. And as Jack like touched on, like, you saw all of the action in the film in the trailer, and kind of similar to also how I said about Blade Runner 2049, it was also marketed as an action film, but in fact was not. I believe the problem was in the marketing, but I did appreciate this film for its focus on linguistics as opposed to, and the purpose as to why the aliens were here, as opposed to, like, why are you here? Like, like as opposed to, like, you explain to us why you're here, and instead, wow, Amy Adams' character, had everyone take a step back and was just like, we need to actually make an effort to understand them. Otherwise, we're going to come off as aggressive. She also uses the, I guess the simile or the metaphor of chess. Like, you're measuring everything by victory and defeat. If you give someone a hammer, everything else is a nail. Like, they kind of like, that was one of the lines in the film. And I just loved how through language, she was able to really immerse herself in their way of thinking, their understanding of things. And that is true for like people. When you like immerse yourself in a culture, you start to see things differently. You start to see things from a different point of view. And that film, or and Amy Adams' like character's experience was literally the same. How the aliens, they experienced past, present, and future all at once, like in a circle. Because she immersed herself in that language, she then began to experience things in that very same way. So I believe there's a very empathetic message that goes along with understanding another language. Like, she was able to fully understand like these beings, and I really enjoyed just that whole message behind the film as well.
And as far as alien films, if you had to choose one of your favorite ones, what would be one of your favorite alien films?
Oh my gosh. In one of those rare cases, I mean, agree or disagree with me, this is how I feel. One of those rare cases where the sequel is just better than the original for me, or I guess more rewatchable, Aliens. As opposed to Alien. I loved Aliens. I could watch that one like over and over again. I like, it's just a great just action-packed romp, whereas the first, it's so much different than the first one. Alien was like full of suspense. Like, you knew the threat was there, but you didn't see very much of it. Whereas in Aliens, it's just like there's a freaking army of them and only a few like survivors in this colony, and now they have to like fight their way out. It's a fun film, big budget, James Cameron action.
What would you say as far as your favorite? And I know that this will be talked about in a second, but time traveling films, if you had to pick one.
Dang. I mean, the most generic answer is probably like Back to the Future, just because it has a lot of just good nostalgia associated with it, and just really good like adventure writing. And I have to say, I'm trying to think of another one where time travel would come into play.
There's a lot out there, but you don't really. They're not usually good.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, Hunter, I know that you have a big project you're working on there, and I know that you're going to be getting back on set tomorrow morning. So we'll let you go. Thank you for being here, and we'll finish the show without you. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Y'all have a great night. Latest.
All right, Joey, if you had what was your thoughts on this as far as the, how did you like the film?
Well, honestly, this was my first time watching the film. Like I said before, I purposely tried to avoid this film just because it honestly seemed like another, oh, here comes another Alien movie, generic. I did like the way the aliens looked, I will say that. But towards the end, I kind of started to, got a little better. In the beginning, it was a little slow pace. And it finally
I would
picked
say
up.
the whole movie is very slow paced, but
Eventually it picked up a little bit, and I like that. And just the whole language part, it's part of every day. Like everybody's got different languages, different countries, what have you. And just eventually with the realization of the last little part, with the flash, you realize it's a flash forward and not a flashback. It kind of tied it all together and pretty good. I mean, am I glad I watched it at least once? Yes. Now I can say it that I watched it and add it to my however many movies that I've watched so far. We didn't catch that.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, just would I watch it again? Probably not. I think once is enough with this film. So.
Okay, and Jack?
What were your questions directly?
What do you think of the film, and where does it fit as far as before we let you think about that, Joey? What we didn't ask you. What is your favorite space or alien film, and what is your favorite time travel film?
Well, Space Alien, I kind of like The Fifth Element is a very good one, followed by a close second, of course, Galaxy Quest. That's got to be a classic. Time travel, I'm not sure if there's time travel in Total Recall. There may be. But you go Back to the Future is probably by far one of the better time travel movies that are out there, that I feel. So.
Okay. All right, Jack. So now let's get your thoughts together. What did you think of this film?
I enjoyed it. I like screenplays that are literate. That they're not dumb. You can see people put effort into it. Amy Adams is fantastic. She is. I think the supporting cast is really good. I think direction overall is good. I think a really good film. Though I agree with Joey that it is one of those films, and there are a lot of those kind of films. You see it once and think, you know what, this is a really good film. Okay, I have to see this again. It's not a film that requires reviewing, but it is something you should see once. So it's not. I wouldn't say it's a classic, but it is a very enjoyable film.
And what would you say as far as your favorite alien or space film?
Of course, my favorite aliens film is Coneheads, and followed closely by that other C, Cocoon, also directed by Ron Howard, coincidentally. But Coneheads is I could watch that 1,000 times. So,
and what would you say as far as time travel?
Well, I know Tamara's going to talk about this, about why it's not a time travel film. I kind of agree. The more I think about it, it's not a film where people go forward in time, but it's a film that uses time going back and forth in time has a plot point. And I think in terms of that, my favorite film, I think it's the best film that ever dealt with time travel and what it's like, is Back to the Future 2. Not Back to the Future 1 or Back to the Future 3. Those are more entertaining films. But in terms of how exactly time travel would work if you ever actually did it, and how many timelines it would result, and how screwed up it would be, Back to the Future 2 actually tries to explain this. So
I agree with that. Well, I I do agree, and I'll let Tamara go last. I'll say what I feel about the film, and then because I think she's going to say, why are we talking about time travel? And I agree. So I'll start off with saying what I thought of the film. It's a very slow-paced film. It's an alien film, so that puts it up there for me. Amy Adams does a great job. Jeremy Renner, I don't remember his acting, so I don't know. I watched the film twice in a week, and I still feel that he's not a big part. I do say Forrest Whitaker actually made a bigger impact to me in the film than him. And I also feel that this film went from a film that I'm not sure I'm going to like, a film that I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy towards the end, and then I loved it. Will I watch it again? I'm not sure. Probably not for a while. It's one of those films that if it's on TV while I'm doing something, I'm not sure. I might look for something better, but it's a film that I'm glad I saw. It's a film that I would recommend people to see. And it's a film that I remember seeing in the movie theater. And I will say that it is a movie that you want to watch in the theater with the surround sound, the big visual effects. And I think I would have enjoyed it more if I rewatched it again at the theater. So I give it, for me, one of those, I will watch it again in the future and I will recommend it. As far as alien movies, for me, I would have to say Space Jam and Lilo and Stitch would be my two favorite alien films. If you're going non-animated, I would probably, I do like me some Independence Day, so I would watch that. But, and if it came to time travel films, Terminator, and I don't know if this counts, and it might be what we're talking about right now. Is it really time travel? Groundhog's Day. I do like Groundhog's Day a lot.
Yeah, I would say that does use time in the same way. And
right.
I think,
and you know, I have to say when I heard that Du Bois, Pennsylvania theater for AMC was closing down, there was a chance we would get it. I knew right away Pennsylvania was not far, and I have stopped at the Gobbler's Knob a few times, and I promised myself this year I would actually go see Phil look at his shadow, but unfortunately with COVID that was not the case. And when I mean that, I know COVID wasn't happening at the time. I actually was very sick at the time, and it was Super Bowl Sunday was also there, and I was very sick. But that being said, I do like Groundhog's Day. So Tamara, what did you think of the film? And we'll just let you take it from here.
I liked it. I would watch it again. Probably not right away. There was a lot of deeper meanings that I found rather impactful for me. That it came out in 2016, so a lot of this information was available. But if I didn't look into some of the deeper aspects of it, I probably would not have appreciated it as much as I do. Because you had me looking into time travel, so I was looking up things about physics and trying to find ways of making it appropriate for a podcast. And I really got into this. And then the linguistics as well, just the way these kind of things shape reality and the philosophy behind them I found really interesting. I do feel like they could have developed Jeremy Renner's character a little bit more, and I would have preferred that was a little more closely tied to the way the theoretical physicist who was played by Jeremy Renner was portrayed in the book, where they included some of these themes, but I think they felt the audiences would not have connected as much with some of the physics laws. But I think it ties in how time matters a lot in this film, because the way that the aliens view it, it's not linear. They're able to see everything at once. And so that's why I guess things can be slowed down a little bit, so that you look at the purpose versus just being able to make a quick choice in the moment. In terms of time travel, I did feel like this was more like premonitions or deja vu versus her actually moving forward into the future. I thought
you did have memories of the future. That's my point of time travel. Is you had to be there to have memories of it, right? So.
Well, have you ever had deja vu before, where you had a dream where you were somewhere or you heard something and then later that kind of happened, but you were missing one aspect of it and that's why it was a dream versus actual reality? I think you can have certain things in place that are conditions that kind of set you up to think that way, but that's getting too deep into the philosophy if I get too much into that. In terms of movies that I like a lot of sci-fi. I kind of grew up with a lot of that. So I'd say three favorite films growing up are definitely Independence Day, Coneheads, and Fifth Element. Well into like my high school years, and then as an adult, it's like more corny movies about films. And the more I thought about this, the more I realized like this is really far-reaching with a lot of the things today.
You know,
So-
there's a film out there that doesn't get credit, Evolution, 2001 film.
That was
yeah.
a good film.
It never gets credit, but it is a good film.
I actually liked Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, even though it was super corny.
Sure, yeah.
Um,
I love the Doors scenes.
Yeah.
It's great how they worked it in from the book.
Absolutely everything with Simon Pegg, even though it wasn't a great movie, I liked the plot behind it. And like Star Trek, the newer ones, I really like those. The Star Wars movies, all of those things, like we don't normally think of those as those typical space
Well,
movies.
it's hard to they are in a different verse of themselves. So I would say like Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a space movie, you know, but
Right.
but generally speaking, it is a Marvel franchise. So I always see that in a different universe. That is not,
Yeah.
you know, but I agree. I mean, you can't, I mean, if you're going to talk space movies, Star Wars, right? But at the same time, you almost put that up there. I think also E.T. Is a film that is left out, but there's a bunch of.
I always think of when you said alien movies, I'm thinking of aliens on Earth movies.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I am
Way to
thinking
think
of.
about it. Well, in that case, Lilo and Stitch and Space Jam still irrelevant.
Coneheads is still the superior.
Sure.
The Time Traveler based on George Orwell's book. I don't
Sure.
really like the main actor of that, like especially in Iron Man and Memento. He's just not a likable actor, but I
Guy
like
Pearce.
the movie itself. Yeah, Guy Pearce. At least to me, that's how I feel. And The Lovers with Josh Hartnett in it was one where like the girl kind of goes back to the 17th century.
What was the
falls in love
film?
with that guy?
What was the film where they were on a spaceship together and they wake up together?
Passengers.
That was a good movie too.
That was Chris Pratt and
Jennifer
Jennifer
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Yeah, I like them. And Rocket Man. If you've never seen Rocket Man, it's a great
Right.
space
Brendan
movie.
Fraser.
No, that's not. That's the other guy. With the monkey. But I always forget the guy's name. But yeah. But I again.
Well, they made two versions of the Rocket Man.
Well, they've made three versions, I guess, of
The Rocketeer is what I'm thinking of.
Oh,
Yes.
Rocketeer.
Yeah.
That's. I know that's not time travel. Though.
I guess
No.
Green Lantern is also kind of a space movie. Most people don't like it
Yes,
because it's
but
a
is it really
DC
good?
movie.
Well, I have to say that first of all, I think would be a great way to we should compare Rocket Man, and I'm getting the actor's name. I always forget his name. Harlan Williams. That's who it is. Harlan Williams and Jessica Lundy. It also has William Sadler, Jeffrey Demon.
Oh, and Men in Black. That was one of my favorites as a kid too.
But I think we should do Rocket Man 1997 and Rocket Man 2019 and compare them because those are two movies.
You talking about the biopic
John?
of John Lennon?
I love that movie, but
Not
that's
John
not what I
Lennon.
thought you were talking about.
Elton John. Yeah.
Elton John, yeah.
Yeah, no, so Rocket Man is about this guy, Harlan Williams, goes up to space, but he's a genius when it comes to computers, but he's a complete idiot like in real life. There's a moment where a monkey literally like almost kicks him out of his room.
So basically, they couldn't afford Pauly Shore.
Yes. No, that's the thing. Harlan Williams. I have to say, Harlan. That movie was such an influence in my childhood that I actually, and it only made $15 million. It opened up in I forget when it went out, but it was like '97. And it was one of those films where I watched, and there's still a moment when I walk out of my theater and I leave my assistant in charge. There's a line in the movie where he tells the monkey, "If you light the place on fire, the number's 911." And then he closes the door and leaves. And so every time I leave the theater, I use that line. It's amazing how much that movie affected me.
Actually, another movie I used to watch a lot as a kid was Stargate, just because we happen to have it on VHS.
That's a
I
good
realize
movie,
this is
yeah.
dating myself. But it does talk about characters as well and why they're important and how you're looking at 4 dimensions versus just 3. So
I wonder whatever happened to that monkey in that film, Rocket Man. Well, yeah, I'm sorry, but I just remember there was a monkey in there, and I don't know how to look up monkeys on IMDb. So that being said, guys, this week, Croods opens up, I know, in theaters on Wednesday. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for joining me this
happy Thanksgiving.
But it was a great talk with you guys. So next podcast, we're going to go and have Hillbilly Elegy, which is currently, as a headline I'm reading right now, the worst movie of the year. I don't know if that's true, but we'll see and let you know next week. Thank you for listening.